We, Great. Thank you for hitting that. Let's run you through here briefly. Who is Founders Freedom? So that's our vision. We are quite deliberate about creating a community of successful, multi-generational African-owned businesses. And you're quite passionate and particular about African-owned businesses for two reasons. On one hand, when you think about it, most African countries gained independence about between 1960 to 1980. And that would have come with it the first generation owned businesses for the most part. Some existed before that, but for the most part, African owned businesses would fall within that 1960, 1980 range. And so 2023 would give you a good 40, 50, 60 years even, depending on when you start counting, of that first generation. So we are seeing a significant shift. You're getting to a place where there's transition from the first generation to the next generation. And one of the challenges is without proper preparation, that handover of wealth, that transfer of wealth is not quite going according to plan. You're seeing in our dailies, court cases of a lot of matters being taken to court, and that's locking up wealth being transferred to the next generation. So that's an area we are particularly passionate about. How do we help businesses transition from the founder to the next generation? The second aspect that's informing our vision is we've, I think, combined had about 30 years experience working, especially in the Africa region, helping businesses set up. I've served about 13 different countries in Africa, East, West, and Southern Africa, setting up boards, recruiting high-level senior management, developing strategy, setting up systems to automate operations, and just seeing the recurring theme across the African region on the same gaps in helping businesses move from the founder to the next generation. First of all, allowing founder to get some freedom while they're still running their business. But most critically, when you come to the time that you need to transition that to the next generation, how prepared are you to transition that running of your business? And so we do this powered by our mission. This is really what drives what we do. Helping founders build firm foundations that enable their businesses to run in their absence and last generations. This is not just a message for aging generation that's looking to pass on wealth. Even for us who are setting up businesses, you need to start on the right footing, set up the right structures and systems that allow you to separate yourself from the business, to maintain a strategic direction for your business. So that's our passion, it's our mission, helping founders build firm foundations to enable them run their businesses. Businesses that are bigger than yourself. Your business should be able to run in your absence. And therefore, even when you're not around, then there should be no hiccups in running your business. So these are the four main areas we've identified needing focus. We're able to work with businesses in addressing this four main areas, and that allows a proper foundation to have a business that can run in your absence. First, by documenting your vision as a founder, you have a clear picture on what success looks like. So you document that in that whole conversation around strategy. Which area do you choose to play in, and how do we make sure that you're able to play to win all the time? So that's strategy. Secondly, is structure. We come across many founders who get into wonderful exercise, spend a ton of time and money developing strategy documents that they don't follow through on. It was just great to put before a bank so you get funding, or it was an exercise that was part of a training you went through. We work with founders to put in accountability mechanisms, whether it be one-on-one coaching, whether it be setting up an advisory board or a full fiduciary governing board. We set up structures that allow a founder to follow through on their plans. And the third area is on systems. This is quite critical aspect for every business that allows you to document your key activities, the way you do things. So your customers can expect a consistent process every time. When somebody walks into your store, when somebody places an order, when somebody, your staff are dealing with people, what is a standard operating procedure that's followed? And what areas can be automated to increase efficiencies in your business? So we address that aspect of systems. And finally is on staff. As your business grows, as it scales, you get to a place where it's going to take more than just you as a founder to get things done. You're going to bring in a management team, a staff that's going to hire. How do you replicate yourself in a way that you can then delegate some of the things that you're doing and have people do them well? And that will be our topic for today. For those joining us today for the first time, we've had the opportunity of covering those first three areas, and we've got webinar recordings available. Happy to share those with you at the end of this webinar today. But today our focus is on staff. So how do we do this? In three simple ways. Webinar series like today are meant to enlighten you, create awareness on some of these key areas, invite you to ask questions, gain understanding of the 4S aspects that we've talked about. So we have webinars, we've got excellent content that we put together on our LinkedIn page that we share weekly in a newsletter that goes out, all in the name of creating awareness. We've got speaking engagements, just pass out information to the audience. Number two is through equipping. This information that's shared on our webinar today and in all our other platforms, we expect that is information that would inspire you to action. And so we seek to equip our clients with actionable information. We've got tools and templates on all the 4 areas that we've talked about, whether it be documenting your strategy, building a board, improving performance of your team and tracking their performance, or documenting your systems. We've got opportunity to work with either one-on-one or in workshop setting, equipping you with the tools and templates you need to run your business. And finally, and most exciting, is the engage aspect of our work, which is about building a community of founders that are able to come together in pursuit of building businesses that can run in our absence. And we get to have opportunities to talk with people that have gone ahead of us and kind of figured out how to set up businesses. They've now moved on, they've transitioned, and their businesses are still running. So you get to learn from them as well as learning from each other on what's working and what's not. So a wonderful community of founders that we are building there, that we get to engage. And of course, through our social platforms, again, an opportunity to get to learn from each other. So to our topic today about staff. And this is interesting. So this is a statistic from McKinsey. And what's more striking is we did our own survey. We sent out our survey, I think it was last month in June. This is August, okay, in June. We sent out a survey to ask clients and potential clients their most pressing needs. And one of those questions was on staff. And the question was, do you have staff that you can trust to do the work you give them to do? And interestingly, 50% of the respondents said, I do not have staff. I do not trust that my team will be able to do the things that I ask them to do. I don't trust my team to execute on the tasks assigned to them, which is really interesting, how it ties in with McKinsey's stat of 50% as well, saying more productive staff are more productive on average than low-performing teams. So it's rather important, this aspect of staff. It's really an extension of you as a founder. You're getting to replicate yourself by hiring people for your business. And so that's why we've got our speaker for today. Damaris Ndungwa, an expert in this area. You'll notice from our past 3 webinars and today as well, really deliberate on bringing industry experts. We are big on collaborating. So we're able to then work with people that are bringing us solid, actionable content from their experience and expertise in the area. So we're really, really pleased to have Damaris speak to us today on this topic of staff. She's an OD, organization development expert, and a performance culture, working with multiple industry experts, as you'll have seen in the profile that we shared. So Damaris will help us unpack the question of how do you work with your team? How do you work with your staff to make sure that you can increase trust levels, you can make them get to high-performing team that is able to deliver results for your business. So ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, please allow me to transition this over to our speaker for the day. Damaris, karibu sana.
Thank you very much, Martin. Such a comprehensive overview of what you do. And I bet you are adding a lot of value to not just the founders to any business, but to any organization cross-board listening to what you and the Founders Freedom are doing. I'm really honored to be here today to talk about something that's I am passionate about, which is working with teams. And I believe it is something that most leaders also find a challenge on. And that's why we are here today. So if you allow just to maybe bring this to speed by introducing myself briefly. My name is Damaris Ndungwa. I'm an OD. We call it OD. It's like a tag in our section, meaning Organization Development and Learning. I am an HR by foundation in terms of profession. Most people also know me a lot in the HR space. But incidentally, I've spent over 14 to actually 15 years now in the OD space and learning. And that's why we do a lot of including, a lot of learning programs, including what we're here to talk about today. I've been honored to work with many institutions across governments, across private sector, multinationals within Kenya, Africa, and beyond. And I'm really honored. It's such a pleasure to be here to have an engagement and a conversation about building high performance teams. Because fundamentally, what I do a lot is across just helping leaders develop leadership teams. And we will see why I'm saying this. Then they build teams to drive the results that they want. And there has to be an enabling ecosystem within the workplace that allows us to achieve this result. So welcome on board. I'm happy to see almost 70 people have joined this conversation. Just to tell you the approach that we're gonna use, I like it. I'm a believer, like I said, I'm in the learning space, to believe in engagement, conversations that are connecting, because that's how we learn. And that's how we retain the learning. And with retaining learning, then we can apply the learning. And I am going to, sort of assume that we will be able to converse through the chat because I'll be throwing some insights and, questions that we can continue conversing through the call as we proceed. So I know we have said where we come from, where we're logging in. I have seen some people beyond Kenya. Karibuni sana, welcome. That's how we say it in Kenya, especially someone I've seen from Uganda. So I believe it's still afternoon in Uganda, like it still is in Kenya. So to bring this conversation to speed, I want us to reflect on practical things that we do. I don't want this to be a lot theoretical. I'm going to use a very practical approach to this so we can bring it home very well. So I want you guys to tell me, what sports is What sports are you? What is your favorite sport? Because I'm seeing Asha Dima from Mombasa is insisting is from Mombasa. Thank you very much for that notification, Aisha. We know you're in Mombasa. Karibu sana. So I want to ask you guys, because I believe we have a favorite sport that I'm not going to assume we all have. So what's your favorite sport? You can keep the use the mic if you can. Go ahead. Rugby, swimming. Wow. I'll mark you for your sport. Table tennis, that is from Alice. Football, swimming. Wow, skipping, Jocelyn, that's a unique one. Volleyball. We are both 68, keep them flowing. Chess, wow, handball. Joyce, can you read more from your side? I want to see the most skewness in the sports. Skipping.
I see handball, I see sunbathing, skipping.
Is that a sport?
An interesting one. Okay, swimming. All right, we need some more, like 6. I have to stumble the character of, wow, I see Sheila, you are in golf. That's very uniquely nice. Swimming, football.
Prudence has raised her hand. I don't know whether she wants to say something.
Go ahead through your mic, Prudence, if you want to say something. I don't think she's ready. Let's proceed. Joyce. Oh, I'm not a sports person. Gosh.
Awesome.
We will understand, and get to know what you mean by sports. Okay. Prudence, we still see your hand up. You want to say something very fast? Or you're hitting it by mistake?
Maybe it was a mistake.
Okay, which is okay. If she needs to say something, she can go ahead. So in your own analysis, Joyce, which sport there is very common?
I see a lot of swimming. I see a lot of volleyball. Yes, I see mostly swimming, volleyball. In fact, I'm surprised I don't see a lot of football. I've seen some football, but not as much.
You're shocked, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell from the names here, most of them could be no fans of football, because I can see a lot of ladies, and of course me included. We're not necessarily fan of football. So it tells the dynamism on the variables you're using here. But because you've spoken about football and I've seen football, and most of us don't like it, but we do watch sometimes. You will allow me to use football, because I've come to appreciate, most of us know one thing or the other about, unlike other sports. I guess because it's always on the screen or something. So let me use football. And football, of course, we watch it, we hear about it. It's a sport, it's a common sport. You can find it at national level, any regional, in your local school, you will find people playing football. And the reason I attribute this to this conversation is because it's a sport, and it is done or achieved through teams. So just so I'm not talking about something that's so isolated, let me just find out, what do you know about football? Just one thing you know about football. Feel free to use the mic or the chat. What do you know about football? There is a defender. Wow, Jocelyn. Normal timing is 90 minutes. Okay, there's a time limit. Good. 11 players, 90 minutes. Off to that's an expert, clearly. There are 2 teams. Yes, it has 2 teams. Each side has 11 players. And you guys are not fan of football. Okay, what else do we see? Pattern or system? Magic. It becomes successful if all players are active. Fantastic. From a leadership analyst, I guess. There is a coach, there are schools, brings people together. You guys know a lot. There is referee, 2 assistants. Wow. By the chat. You seem to be all fans of football. I mean, football as a game, recognized internationally. Players, you are so cool. You're so cool. So welcome. I'm actually wondering whether we have founders here or great team players, coordination, the supporting teams. Fantastic. Be together. So I can use football just to bring this case study home. We are here to learn on how to build a great team. And the reason a great team is critical for us to know how to build is because that's how we deliver results in our workplaces. And not just in our workplaces, even in our homes. That's how we deliver results or get things done. So it's very critical cross-board. So I want to go back to you on the topic of football. If we were here, we are about 73 of us, quite a big number. So if we were to form a team, and when I say a team, think about any team, and think about the team players that is in football. Go to your favorite or just football team or league, you know. So if we were to form a team here right now, which player would you have in your team? Give us just one player you would have in your team. Let's form a team. Choose the players for yourself. Use the chat. I think the chat is working for you, not the mic. Go ahead. Wow, we have Roskibe, Messi, Mbappe. Mbappe, yes. This is how you know whether people know their team players, right? There is the clan Rice. Wow, Martin, I see your favorite. Let's form the team. Let's form the team. So throw in your team player. We want to get a team. The Saka, Thomas, Party. Wow. We know the clubs now you sort of support. We know the clubs. There is Ronaldo. It doesn't matter. Just your favorite player you'd rather have in that team. You're forming a team, by the way, here. You need to have that in mind. There's money, good. That's quite home in Africa. Odegaard, good. These ones are not even 11, guys. You need to add team players here, so they are 11. Do we have some more team players in football? Haaland, there's Rashford, Maguire. Wow. I guess, Joyce, you're so confused. You don't even know these guys, right?
I don't watch football. No.
Countless. There's Zahavi, there's Bukayo. Wow. Let me just ask, because yeah, Mbappe seems to be a very favorite one. Drogba, there is Francis Kahata, Peter Wino. That's a big one. Finally, we have someone supporting our local talent. Saka, yes, Saka is also big. Now, just to post it there, you people tell me, when you analyze these names we have here, they are commonly what? What do you call this? What role do they play in the team? Most of these guys. We have Saka, we have Drogba, Mbappe. Fantastic. Florence, you are a genius. Actually, almost this 70% of these names are playing the same role. Drogba, Maguire, Mane, we have Messi, Mbappe, same role. There's a lot of strikers and a bit of midfielder attacking. Do we have a team? The question is, do we have a team? Let me just bring this to the conversation. Okay, Jocelyn is trying to explain a defensive midfielder for Premier. Yes, it is a midfielder. Yes, you agree. Melvin, I am so happy to see you here. We don't have a team. And that's actually, yes, Martin, no team. We don't have a team. Anybody want to give us a hint why we don't have a team? Before now I move into our topic of the day. Martin, maybe you can unmute. Kindly tell us, why do you think we don't have a team? I'm looking for a bold participant, founder, to tell us through the mic. Are they all mute, Joyce? Do they need permission?
Yes, I need permission. If you want to speak, just raise your hand and I'll give permission to speak.
There is Martin, Jocelyn. You can allow any of those ones. Still lacking, or even Rosemary. Rosemary M. So if you are given permission, just go ahead. Okay, seems like time is flowing and people are practicing on how to unmute. The truth is, going by what you people are saying here, is we don't have a team because we are lacking skills cross board for the need of the whole team. We don't have all the members. We seem to have just some few people who are filling same roles within the team. So we don't have a team, but guess what? This is what happens in the workflow. So allow me to share my screen a bit so we can now begin this conversation with this understanding of some of the things. I just wanted to draw you attention to why team and why we need to build teams. So when you see my screen, give me a thumbs up.
I see your screen.
Fantastic. Okay. So like I've said, I think I've introduced myself. We probably can have many definitions for a great team, but I'll tell you some fundamental things that I've learned and experienced through my old years of helping teams, of creating teams. One thing I believe, when you get a great team in your organization or you build one, you can make your organization the best place you want to be all the time. You will be able to achieve the results you look for with a lot of ears, and you will find a crop of people that want what you want, and that's very amazing. And now what does that do to your organization? You're likely going to find yourself in a level where you've built a good reputation and image, not just for your team, but for your organization. It doesn't matter how your organization, the size of your organization, because it begins from there to build your reputation, whether you have 5 team members, 10 team members, 100 team members, it has to begin from there. You build reputation, you are good in terms of attracting talent, because talented people, great people who know what they want, and they know that they have the competency and ability to deliver, they know where they want to go. And that's really cool for any business owner and any entrepreneur or any enterprising person. And that is the way I want us to look on this concept of building high performance teams. But before I take you quickly to how we build, or the how, on how you build the high performance team, there's some things I need you to work or have in the back of your mind, because it works with some assumptions that some level of organization preparedness has been done. And I'll tell you some requisites of this preparedness that you need to have for you even to begin, that you can build a team that is a little bit, successful. I am so happy that Martin has touched on some of them, including entirely what Founders Freedom does, because that builds a foundation for any organization to have thriving teams. So when we talk about these requisites, what exactly do we mean before we even go to the how? Number one, it is assumed by the time you think about how to build your guys or your staff or your team, you already got the right guys on board. Because if you don't have the right guys, then you already have a crack and a big gap. And this I see a lot of times, you using your defective talent attraction or recruitment processes, you end up having the wrong guys on the table, and therefore do not align with the goal or the responsibilities you brought there first place. They don't know what they're there to do, or maybe you didn't tell them. And therefore there's a mismatch and there's a gap already. So you find these people you have here are clueless on what they came to do, and that is very fundamental and for the team to have. So when you bring the wrong people, probably in the right bus, we don't know even the wrong bus, then you cannot. It will be very difficult for you to build any team, because the team is guided by some fundamentals and principles that align to the strategy of organization to deliver something. So do you have the right people on? So here you begin to ask yourself, do the people I have the right competency and capabilities to meet the roles I brought them here to do? If they don't, then you may need to reevaluate that. Number two is, we assume that you put the right structures. And I think Martin has quite elaborated on the importance of structure, because without a structure, and when we talk about structure, include the policies, the processes, the whole organ design you have. Do you have the right structure to support delivery by the team? That's a good place to reevaluate. Because, for example, if you bring someone, you have recruited them last week, they come on board, and you just tell them, like during some years back when I got my first job, you just come in and then you're thrown into a desk, you're told, this is Damaris, this is Joyce, and this is Or, and Damaris is here to do ABCD. Damaris is clueless about the process on where to begin and who to work with and all that. That means there's a lacking structure probably on how you onboard the people. There is lacking structure on how you recruit people in the first place so you get the right target. So all these structures need to be very fundamental. They can be many, but they are basic ones that must be there. Reevaluate and find that before you, because it's going to be a gap even when you're building your team. And empowered leadership to lead performance. I know most of us definitely know leadership is very critical, because first of all, we understand the vision, like the way Martin is actually articulating the vision of the company from the leadership. If there is no such articulation in terms of leadership of why we are here, then there is going to be a gap, because teams thrive through goals, objectives, or things to deliver. Then the last one is, it's a very important, and most people miss this one. Understand the developmental stage of your team. I know here there are founders or people leading teams which are 2 years old, or they are 1 year old, or they're 10-year-old. And they have been the same team or just some small variation in terms of composition through that time period. So it's very important, because teams form through a certain process. Teams that have just formed require a specific way of leading for them to deliver. Teams that have overcome the first level of development also require a different way of leading for you to form the teams, and so on and so forth until you get to the performing stage of the team. For those who remember, there is a Tuckman model, which is very common. Let me see whether I have it here. Okay, exactly. It looks like this. Teams who are just forming.
I like the information you're sharing. Thanks.
Fantastic, thanks. So if you're at the forming stage, then you should know how to build a team. At the storming and norming and performing is very different. So those are foundationals. So remember, building a great team is not an event, but a well-organized leadership strategy to respond to business needs. I've seen people who think team building when things have gone south. So you sort of want to be very reactive instead of proactive. So you can build intentionally your team without being reactive. And those team building sessions you have will actually be able to anchor more on performance. So what challenges are you experiencing within your team? I have heard Martin from the opener saying from the survey that there were many issues that people are not able. Founders, leaders don't feel they have the right teams to deliver because of many reasons that we'll see towards the end. So how can leaders build a great team? Allow me to share something here. And let me know if you can hear the sound, first of all, and then we will proceed. To our fans of Arsenal, please don't force me. I was just for learning purpose on that game. It's very famous some years back though. But you see, the reason I'm playing this clip is that was one of the, ridiculously smashed way of winning when you think in football. I am a proponent of building teams, and we borrow a lot from the field of sports, and I think that's where we began. So when we observe this game here, one team completely won while the other one was struggling. And I know there are many reasons for that, even when you compare ourselves with our own teams. But let's go to the conversation here. Number one, and these are the hints and on how you begin to build a team, is leadership. For those who are pro this game, and you think back on what was happening to Manchester United, they had a coach who was called Alex. And Alex is one of the biggest studied coaches in the world of football because of the techniques and strategies he used to build the Manchester United club from where it was to become the biggest club for years in the Europe. And there was key, strategies that he used that cut across even when you lead teams within organizations. So number one is leadership. And it takes a great leader or leadership to build any team. When you observe critical companies, let me just talk about the common one, like Safaricom. When the leadership changes, you see a lot of things changing within the teams because leaders influence the team and the team goals, and therefore the team and its delivery as well. So what are we talking about when you talk about the essence of a team and leadership? Leaders who are not afraid to course correct are the kind of leaders that build great teams. You're not afraid of moving from what we are used to doing things, or the only way you have learned to do things, to say, yes, I think this is wrong. It's been done wrong for years. We need to do it differently. You're not afraid. That is leadership in building teams. Make the difficult decisions. Sometimes you see these players, these guys are best, but the coach will feel, no, we need, for various reasons, probably for mentorship or growth for someone, other player, we need to bring another player on board. It's a decision that is very hard to make on a team that ought to win. Establish standards of performance. You are the one who actually drives the maps and models, the standards. It can be different on paper because you always get it right on paper in terms of standards, in terms of SOPs and all other standards we set. But if it's not live within the team, the leaders are not living it, it's not seen anywhere, we will emulate what we see as a team. So it's a rule that is very subtle but practical. It is the fundamental, sort of foundational. We think it's obvious about leadership that they are so synonymous with vision, strategy, and direction, because that's where we get this message of direction from. And therefore, we are going to this game, we are playing with team ABCD. I'm just giving an example in sports. And it's just like saying we have this strategy, we are going in for 1 year, and we have a vision we have goals and objectives to deliver. That message comes from the leaders. Our work in the mid-level as a team and the rest of players is to execute. When there's no direction, then don't anticipate that there will be a team because you failed to build a team. Okay, the other is be available. There are sometimes we bring teams and we disappear as leaders. We are not present. We give them targets in the beginning of January, we disappear until December. How did we give them support? Because they definitely need support. Did we provide the tools of trade that they need? Because if we didn't, then how are they going to deliver? And these are things that affect the team in terms of formation. And if they're affecting them, then there's a challenge. Know what your team needs in terms of being present actually will allow you to know what the team needs. Practice empathy and a lot of emotional intelligence, because teams is formed by people. They could be diverse, but they're people, they're not machines. They will have aspects and challenges as human beings that need you to understand as a leader or as a team leader per se. Leadership can touch a lot of things, in fact, everything about a team. So it's good to ask yourself, how well are you lending your hand to your team? And all these pointers you see here are some priority areas you can run with. in terms of building teams. And now, because time is moving, allow me to move very fast. The other one is, sorry, I need to sort of reduce this way. Is to communicate the goal of the team very clearly and how we are progressing in terms of assessment. You see, when you look at football, when it is one goal, it's almost everybody knows, it's communicated clearly. In terms of where we are going, we have 40%, we have hit this number of targets, we have implemented. You need to communicate the goal first and how we are progressing. This one, we dropped the ball and this is what you're going to do to come back or bounce back for the team. Deep awareness is very critical, because you need to know the type of team players you have. What are they strong at? What is their weaknesses? How can you leverage on their potential? And that comes from understanding your team. Spend a lot of time with your team to understand them. Because when you understand them, then you will know how to leverage and who to leverage and when to leverage on them. Then it becomes easier to drive results because you know them, they know you. Determine priorities, and this is critical because it speaks to planning, including time planning with your team. When you identify your key objectives, then you'll cascade the outcomes very well within the team. And when you cascade and they are understood, then you're hitting the right things. We talk about our performance, or high performance team, or high performing teams. You cannot separate that with evaluation or metrics, which is very critical. When you're setting your goals or targets, help them to understand, how do we measure? How do we know we actually hit them? So that's critical on communicating the goals, or the strategic goal, which is atomic responsibility of the leader. Very important. Doesn't matter what level of leadership you're in, you're the CEO, you call the shots. Secondly, you communicate the same to your managers or whoever is down there until it reaches the team. Good. Effective communication, very big driver of results. It's effective. How do we communicate? Sometimes people set their own communication strategy, identifying what is formal communication. What do we take? What don't we take? When do we anticipate what kind of communication? When this type of communication comes in, how am I supposed to respond? Is there room for giving feedback? As for example, as staff, have you opened an avenue where if people are not having what they need or are experiencing some challenges from the line, they can actually communicate that? Are those lines open? Is there a way we evaluate to understand whether we are communicating effectively or not? This is very deliberate. And you need to keep on evaluating communication because it's a driver of almost everything, including the results. If you don't understand what you're saying or what's important, then how will we deliver as a team? And this is very important for anybody who is leading teams, communication. And this is what I was saying, choose media, give consistent feedback, allow them to give you feedback so you know the status of things and all that. Talent placement, very critical. I think we've seen it through the first exercise we did. It's good not just to bring someone to the bus, but ensure they are the right people in the bus who are sitting in the right seat and to do the right role. Sometimes we recruit people the wrong way, where they don't know they came to do what, and then we are crying, these people, they're doing nothing. But we have also failed as the leaders to communicate this. We need to place people in roles or tasks that they can deliver very well. If they can't, we need to empower them or to build them to be able to deliver. So talent is very critical. You can imagine when you put a striker as a goalkeeper, are you not setting yourself to fail as a founder? You have the best talent this person has. They can actually strike the ball anytime and score, but you place them wrongly, then there's a problem. We need to reevaluate that because it can actually hinder the best delivery on your team. The last, the next one is, that's what I was saying, is growth. Growth is very critical. We live in a changing time. We live in a changing workplace. We actually change even goals and the way we do things within our organizations. And every time we change anything, ask yourself, do we need our team to adapt a new skill, a new knowledge for them to understand this thing we are doing? Because if they don't, they will not be able to do it. So there's need for growth, which is critical for learning and development. Let's continue ensuring we have the right skill to deliver the goals we have, or the outcomes we need, or the performance that we've set for ourselves. We have to keep developing them to be at par at our growth all the time. So teams don't just win at the game pitch, but at grounds. That's why footballers or any sports, people train intensely for them to come and win. We give them the skills, knowledge, and everything, including, peace of mind and all that, for them to come on the pitch and win. So it's very critical to continuously develop your team, because you want it to be a great team anyway. And then by meeting those performance gaps, you're able actually to meet the expectation on your bottom line and top lines. Recognize and reward, very critical. When someone does what we agreed you will do, then they anticipate. They anticipate on the other side that you will recognize and reward them commensurately or even above. If we'll go again to the field of football, like we said, we agree we will borrow a lot on that. You realize actually these are people who are paid ridiculously huge amounts of rewards because they value their team players. One of the things that I find very common when building teams is when people feel that you're not recognizing them, they are not being rewarded as per their effort, then they disconnect. And then you begin to feel these people are just here, not doing anything, or just doing the bare minimum, so that they just meet the bare results that probably they can meet. So you can't fire them, but you can't really have a hard conversation with them. And that disengagement is very bad for any business growth, because that's when you begin to hear the emerging studies talking about quiet quitting of individuals, because they completely disconnected. And some of these things that make them disconnect is like when you're not recognizing the effort or even rewarding them commensurately. So that's critical. It's actually a matter of policy in organizations that way. Do it instant if you can. In football, when someone gets a trick, even we know what they're gonna take home. They score 2 goals continuously, they get the hat trick and all that. So create that environment that makes the same happen for your team. Someone does a fantastic delivery, recognize them almost immediately and make sure everybody else knows actually what to anticipate when someone does that. When you put it in policy, then it's anticipated. Care and concern, we cannot overemphasize on this, because again, we're human beings. Listen more to people as people, and then you will win their heart, and then they will deliver your goal or vision. Because when they realize you care for them, you have concern for them, then they have concern for your business. It is simple, but it works magic for your teams. Care beyond just them, their families, anyone who is around them that they care about. I know of one of the greatest CEOs in Kenya who's done this. It's like a policy he uses. If you remember, the famous CEO was highly written on newspapers some 3 years back from Peptang, where people cried almost the whole organization when he was leaving to another role. It's amazing when we do these things to your team. You spend little budget, almost nothing, but you actually get them doing a lot for your organization. So take time, observe, be with your team, and care more beyond. In fact, have policies or procedures that you use to make sure you go over and above to meet their own needs, not just because they're in the workplace, but because they're human beings. I don't know, am I going back or what? The next, last one is set high standards. Standards will not just drive your great team, it will build your culture. Set high standards, stick by it, be the first to lead it, hold everyone up to it, including your immediate boss. Don't say, this is my deputy, so you cannot punish them. Hold everybody to account when it comes to this standard, up to the bottom of it, bottom of that structure. Make sure you set the standards, lead them, and put everyone in line across that. The moment you select how you actually pull the sanctions, then you kill the entire spirit of even the standard itself. Standards will set the tone on how we do things here, which is ideally the culture, how we speak to each other, we engage with our customers, the speed on which we deliver. Lead those standards and the rest will just follow to you. You don't follow, you pull the sanction to everybody. Rules are rules, they're followed all inclusively by everyone. Crack whip if you can as a leader. And then you see what magic that works. The last, another list, this second last, never stop adapting because you're changing. And this is very critical because you've also to have a balcony view about your company or your team on where they're supposed to be or to be in the next 2 years. Beyond this year's delivery, what are we doing next year? And because you are aware of where we are going, then you will align the skills, the competencies, the requirements of your team ahead of time. So it's good to stay open and be adapting to the new changes because that's how you get to the next year, which is, of course, most times not the same as this year's outcomes. And the last on the list, okay, continuously keep evaluating the health of your team. It is lacking in most of the places I've been. I don't know your case, maybe, because if you do not stop at some point and ask yourself, how are we doing? You could be as well doing as worst as you can. Or you could be as well being doing very well, but beating yourself because you actually have not evaluated on that. So let's have a way or a tool as supervisors, as a manager, as a founder, on where we can pause and check our health. And why do we need to do this? Because sometimes when we pause and analyze how you're doing, we get to actually ventilate. It's like you get to have a breather within your organization, and you can pinpoint the strong points or enablers of your business. And you can also tell what are the disablers of your organization. What are these things that are pulling us down as a team? And then when you're aware of those things, then they shape how you make decisions as a leader. You could be making a grand decision, investing huge money or resources on it, but it's not the primary, it's not the priority. It is actually not the 20 that will give you the 80, results for that strategy. So let's pull health. I always, I work with Blue Concepts Africa, as I mentioned, and we have a tool for teams only, because we believe teams, of course, the building high performance team is very strategy. It has evaluation on how you can tell whether your team is high performing or it's at 50% or whatever point. It has 10 elements. And these elements, when you evaluate cross-cuttingly, you can tell how you're doing across these 10 elements of building high performance. This is for across board within our 15 years of experience on how we evaluate that. So it's very critical to have a way of, after some period of time, let's check how are we doing as a team. It is very critical because it will give you as a leader good insights on what to do next. You check on trust because trust is very critical. You hardly can do anything without trust. We have concern for one another because we coexist as a team. Are we communicating? I think we've spoken a lot about that. We understand where we are going in terms of goals. How do people respond to that within your organization? If they don't know where they're going, then there's a big problem because they're taking you somewhere where you don't want us to go. We have commitment, and this is the matters of engagement and all that gives you the results. It will help you understand even the relationship between the person at the front desk, the supervisor, all those relationships will come out. And then conflict resolution, critical for any team. It's very important that people are empowered to do effective resolutions. And level of participation is a matter of motivation. Do we respect each other? Sense of belonging is very, very important. Because if you have teams who are just hanging there and don't feel this is a place we need to work, guess what? They're using your resources and they're looking out for other jobs. And you have people there who are not there. In other words, you don't have a team when they don't have sense of belonging. It's good to analyze and realize how many in terms of percentage of my team do we have who feel proud and they believe this is where we need to be, because those are the only people you can actually begin to build. This percentage goes below 80%, then you need to worry because you have 20% who don't want to be there, and then it could be pulling. The principle we call the principle of the rotten apple. It can be very risky, especially for someone who's resolved 100%. They don't belong here. Guess what they're doing every day? They're pulling your team down. So it's good to do these evaluations all the time. I know I've moved with a lot of speed because Joyce is looking at me clearly I can see that. So this is sort of the key fundamental things you need to keep looking continuously for you to build your team. They can be broad depending on how you look at them, but they'll get you there when you follow them closely. You will definitely be heading the right direction of your team as a founder. I hope you have any questions in case of the areas that we have not been able to cover. If you're wondering, how do I know my team is toxic or bad? Here are some areas you can look at. If you're looking at negative shadowing of negative things from your leadership, you hear a lot of people say so and so in your management or in your supervision, you have done that. If there is leadership, negative thing, then there is inefficiency. Lack of course, there's no clarity, you evaluate, you don't know. There's unfair reward and equal treatment and all that. There are many ways you can tell, but just these are 10 of them. You spot 6 of these ones, then you need to do something in terms of the team. So without further ado, I want to pause there and invite Joyce to tell me that I've stepped over the time and we have some questions, definitely. Because the only value of aspiration is the action it takes. So I believe you're gonna pick something from here. It doesn't have to be everything, but at least 3 things that you can move with, be able to do something about your team and help them meet the goals that you anticipate them to meet. Hope is not a strategy, because we tend to hope a lot that one day we'll have a great thing, whatever it is, whether it's your team or culture. You need to actualize it. Thanks very much. There you have it. Any questions, Joyce?
Yes, I've seen about 2 questions. Thank you so much for such an engaging presentation. I wish we had more time to listen. And for those who are asking, yes, we will share the recording and we will share the presentation with you after this. Melvin asks, he said, that's a wonderful, energizing presentation, Damaris. Do you have a rapid assessment tool for level of team performance besides the long one?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I know Dr. what he's asking. In fact, the one I've just shown right here is a rapid one. You see this one here? This one here, if I'm working with your team, I only need 10 minutes and I'll give you results. It's very rapid, but I know if it's the Melvin, I know Grant the coach. This is a can be crunched version that can take you less than 10 minutes to get an indication of the team. Of course, it's a comprehensive, detailed one. But we crunch this one to extrapolate a kind of short survey. So yes, there is.
Okay, so there's another question. What do you do in a situation where your best performer who brings in the most money is not a great team player?
Wow, yeah, that's a good one. It happens. It's when you're trading off performance and actually a real great team player. I think what I advise people, if you have a toxic team player who happens to be the top performer, then you need to calculate your risks, okay? Because one thing I tell you for sure, if they are really toxic, it's a matter of time, they will bring the entire team down. Secondly, it's a fact that when the team is down, they will not deliver. Your organization goes alone. So it's good to do your risk analysis. What I advise, and this is when I evaluate the scenario, you have tried to, all mitigations, it's not pulling through, then sometimes you really need to let go. Because it will affect not just your team, but it will define the tone of your culture. So you know what that means. When people start leaving and labeling your organization as having someone to define the culture of your organization.
Okay, I'll read 2 more questions. How do I avoid or reduce silent leavers from the organization? That's the first one. Then the second is kindly assist on how to course correct management when the inconsistency starts from the top.
Course correct your management, okay. Let me talk about the first one, about how do you deal with the silent quitters within an organization. First of all, is to ask yourself why they are leaving. You may not even have the answers for that question. So again, the last point I gave there is evaluate. Evaluate what's happening in your team. When they talk, you will actually analyze and see what is the issue within the team. People always leave because the issues are not addressed, or they feel they're cocked up and nobody is listening to them. That's almost 70% of the cases I've had. When you open up these issues and actually commit to help them by addressing and helping them to sort of overcome those challenges, people, plug in, because now they realize you're leading, you're helping them, you're supporting, you're creating an environment where they're recognized, they feel, valued and all that. Then you have high sense of engagement. So always, I urge you, evaluate, find out what the issues are. Sometimes it happens when you have a cocked up kind of communication for your organization. So things are not getting to you and people feel oppressed down there, so they leave. So evaluate, listen to them, the issues. Secondly is, Joyce, you said how you can, course correct, especially when it comes from the top. I find this question all the time from an HR perspective, because the issue of change is sort of domiciled in the HR platform because it's about people. And then, you realize things are not working. And it's interesting because here we're talking about founders who are most times the CEOs and the directors of the company. It happens sometimes the leader or a certain leader is the one who is stopping the success of the goals we have. So the person who is tasked to help or champion has a challenge about how do we navigate this, because now it's my boss who is now becoming the biggest challenge. How do you course correct that? First of all, there are many ways, and conversation is always first. Number one, do you have or can you have a connection or a communication sort of conversation with your boss? When you get a platform, just bring it up. I've been trying to do this because of ABC. Bring your points on the table and then tell them, I find it a challenge because this is what happens and I wish it can change. Then listen to them. Let them tell you how they understand the challenge. Because most times you realize leaders sometimes don't know, or they actually are not aware that's happening. So you help them to become more aware, and then they can support you better. If you have tried some of the issues and you realize you're actually looking like intentional, then you need also to calculate your risk. Sometimes people can choose very radical moves, like, if it's your supervisor, is there an escalation process or policy to the next one? If there is, make use of it. If you're talking about the top of the top, if that's a founder and it's an HR and the founder has said it, no, then that's the ultimate power you have within the organization. So you calculate your moves again. So that's how I can respond to that. In terms of the context of a team, you want to build a team. Again, some of the times we don't get this support because we don't have a compelling case. Neither do we show the value for the initiatives we want to do. So it's also challenge ourselves and ask ourselves, are we building a case that supports in a big way the strategy or the interest or the outcomes the organization is looking for? So when I take it to the table of the board, of the directors, they can actually see how it fits to the strategy or the vision of the company. Because if it looks like more of a cost than an input that has a long-term kind of a benefit, most likely they will not support it at this time, or maybe they think next time they will, but just not now. So it's also sort of a 360 look into things. If you have tried those things and it is at the top and nothing is working, then you need to also make your hard decisions to move to where you feel you can be empowered and you're contributing effectively.
So we have more questions coming in, but unfortunately we can't respond to everything right now because we've even gone over time. But I'll encourage you, I've taken the 2 questions that are remaining. Damaris, I'll forward them to you. Then maybe we can send a written response or something. And if anyone else has any other questions, feel free to send them to us, to our email address. I'm sure Martin can share it in the chat. Then you can send them to us. We'll pass them over to Damaris and then we can get you a response. but hopefully we can have more talks like this. I'm seeing that staff is an area where people really are interested in and where they would need a lot of help. So let me just share my screen and walk you through a few things that we have coming up for Founders Freedom.
Okay, thanks very much, Joyce.
Thank you, Damaris. Just before we close, so at the beginning of this webinar, Martin mentioned that what we do it in 3 ways: enlightening, equipping, and engaging. So I'd just like to walk you through in those 3 areas what we have coming up. Under the enlightened area, this is the last of our series of 4 webinars that we've held over the past month. We've had other webinars on strategy, on systems, and on structure. And so we have recordings of those 3 webinars. We've uploaded them to our YouTube channel, and we will share the link. So we encourage you to go back and listen to those presentations. They are also very good, a lot of interesting information and useful information for any business founder. Then we plan to have more webinars coming up. Our plan is to do this monthly because we've tried it out and we've seen that we've gotten good feedback, and would love to have you come and learn even a lot more on those 4 areas that we work in, and so that can provide the support that you need as a founder. Then please follow us on LinkedIn. We have a newsletter there. So subscribe to our newsletter. We are always writing articles addressing the problems that you have. And you can also write to us and send us questions, and definitely we will respond. And the Equip section, we are working on some business freedom workshops in partnership with International Leadership University. We are yet to decide the date and settle on it, but we are looking at the end of September. So at that workshop, we will get to interact with your fellow business founders. At this level, when we have the enlightened level, that's where we provide you all the information that you need to build a business that would run in your absence. At the level where we talk about equipping you, we encourage you now to put that information into practice. So we provide you with tools, templates. If you come for a workshop, we will walk you through step by step how to use that in your business to actually get the transformation that you need from the information that we have been sharing. So we will share information about this workshop with ILU, but also if you'd like to have a workshop done for you, customized for yourself, if you can get a group of 10 people together, 10 business founders who would want a workshop, then we can come to you and provide that workshop in a group. Another way that we can work with you is one-on-one with us in those 4 areas: strategy, structure, systems, and staff. You can feel free to set up a discovery call with us. Write to us at hello@foundersfreedom.org, and we'll get back to you, and we can see how we can work together one-on-one. Then engage for us is the most exciting part, because we want to build a community of founders who want to build businesses that can run without them. And even when we did our survey, 92% of the people who responded would have wanted a community like that, because sometimes it can feel like you're taking this journey alone. So we are starting with a fireside chat, which will be a small event with beginning a series of events that we'll have for our community. So we will be bringing founders who have attained freedom and walking us through, let them walk us through how they have managed to build a business that can run without them. And we would invite you to join our community, and we'll keep on communicating with you on our email list, so that when we have other events, which we plan to have quarterly, we'll have one in October, one in December. So please stay plugged into what we are doing. And those are social media handles. We're on LinkedIn as Founders Freedom. We are also on Instagram, on Facebook, and we also have a YouTube channel. You can write to us directly at hello@foundersfreedom.org, and also call us on that number, 0706 941 002. So that's it for today and for the last webinar that we had in this series. And thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Damaris, for your presentation today. It was very interesting. I learned a lot. And Martin, if you'd like to add anything, please go ahead. If not, then we can close the webinar.
No, that's great. I think you've covered all the bases. Thank you once again, Damaris. Excellent presentation. Really, really thankful.
Thank you. Have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you, Joyce. You have a fantastic, afternoon. Until the next time, bye. Great participation,
Bye.
all the participants. See you next on the next.
Thank you.
Absolutely.